Hi, in this video we're doing the 2023 update to our GTA 5 Story Mode Investor's Guide, where you'll learn how to make so much money the game literally won't be able to cope. Hi and welcome back, my name's Dan and I'm an old grumpy gamer. Well, we're fast heading to the 10-year anniversary of GTA 5 and we're still discovering new things we can do to exploit story mode's mechanics and generally run amok. One of the more fun things to do is literally make more money than the game can handle using the stock market. And using this guide, you'll end up with so much money you could never spend it in-game. Before we dive in though, if you find this helpful, we do lots of Grand Theft Auto Online and GTA 5 guides, tips and tricks. So if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell for more content like this. Oh, and for this guide, I'm going to assume you'll be following the natural progression of the game for the most part. That means following the storyline for whichever character the game drops you on at the end of each mission. And I should also note this supersedes our previous guides too. This is a pretty big guide with a lot to cover, but if you're just after the stock trades, scrub forward to the timestamp on screen. If you want to go through the whole thing, we've broken the guide down into sections. Who this guide is for, changes from our previous guides, using the in-game stock exchange, time skipping, maximizing returns or save scumming, what to do if you have too much money, raising seed capital, avoiding accidentally triggering the Tinkle investment opportunity, the disappearing stock bug, a recap and final pre-investment prep, and the actual investments themselves. Also, this is not really for your first playthrough, so if you've just jumped into GTA 5 story mode for the first time, don't try this. I'd suggest working through the storyline in its entirety and genuinely enjoying it, then coming back to this guide for your second playthrough. So first things first, this guide applies if you're on a PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox S or X, or a legit copy of GTA 5 for PC, and you have a Rockstar social club linked to your game, which gives you access to the secondary ballsack exchange. If you're using an older generation console, that's a PS3 or an Xbox 360, are running a PC version that can't be registered, or are otherwise running the game offline, then you need our offline investor's guide, which you can find linked in the description below. If you've already used Franklin to complete all of Lester's assassination missions, you've missed the boat on game breaking money, but there's still a good chance you can make enough to buy just about everything. If you have not done the Lester assassination missions using Franklin, the J. Norris one carried out by Michael doesn't actually count, then you need this guide, and there's a link in the description below, and that will take you through how to make much more money. So for this guide, I'm going to assume you've never used the in-game stock market before, and this is your second or third playthrough. Also, don't buy any of the businesses just yet either. Steer away from vehicle mods, clothes, and tats too. This is our third iteration of this guide, and it's a little different from the 2022 version. This time around, we've removed estimated percentage gains. Unfortunately, the gains have started to diverge vastly between the PC version, previous console generations, and the current next-gen consoles. Rockstar also appear to have nerfed trades, which makes it really hard to get a good gauge of what's what. Removed the briefcase fundraising section. Again, instead of fixing the underwater briefcase exploit on PC and previous generation consoles, Rockstar opted to simply remove the mechanic altogether. This means slightly less money than we'd otherwise have, but not so much that you will notice later in the game. Clarified the order of proceedings. Some of the language used in previous iterations of this guide left viewers a bit confused, so we've reworked a few bits and pieces to make it clearer. Refined some trades. We've been able to improve the returns on a few trades by tweaking the timing a little, largely as a result of feedback, research and comments from our amazing community. Added an extra trade. We'd missed a trade on the previous iterations, specifically the Fly Us trade, so we've added that one in. And added a too much money workaround. When you top the game's cash cap, which is a touch above $2.1 billion per character, it becomes a little more challenging to pull your money out of the stock exchange. We've added some instructions on how to deal with that when you hit it. Righty-o, the stock market in GTA 5 operates like the stock market in real life. Stocks go up and down based on in-world events, announcements, and general happenings. This can include market reactions to heists, the untimely deaths of CEOs, and news from rival companies. There are also some random fluctuations, but we're not going to worry about those. Instead, we'll be concentrating on major market movers. Now, before we get into the actual stock tips, there's a few things we need to cover first, starting with the basic mechanics around buying and selling stocks. The stock market is unlocked not long after Michael sorts out Jay Norris in Friend Request, where we meet Ricky. To purchase stock, open your phone, that's up on your D-pad for a controller or the up arrow on your keyboard. Next, head to the internet icon. Click the Money and Services tab, and let's start with the Liberty City Exchange, or LCN. As you can see here, there are a number of stocks available. The company name and current price columns are pretty self-explanatory. It's the price movement and average change that we'll be keeping an eye on. Movement here determines whether we make money or lose it on any given trade. Next up is the Balsac Exchange. Click the grey tab at the top to access this. Now, if you see a list like this, you're good to go. If the exchange is not available or is offline, this becomes a little more work. What we'll need to do to get the second exchange working is link your Rockstar Social Club account with your game. So if you have a PSN or Xbox Live account, you should be able to do this by logging into rockstargames.com and selecting Link Account from the menu at the top right. Steam, Epic, and legit PC versions should be more or less the same, but there are links to the official Rockstar support documentation below. Once you've done that, restart the game and you should be able to see the Balsac Exchange. Assuming you're good there, to purchase any stock, you click on it. Click the green buy button, click and hold the green plus button until you have all the stock you want, and normally we'll be purchasing as many as we can. Then click the green buy button again. Once that's done, you'll see a readout of the purchase with the current price and your potential profit or loss. And after that, you can exit the internet by clicking the X in the URL bar. Selling is reasonably straightforward too. Bring up your phone, head to the internet icon, click Money and Services, click on either the LCN or Balsac, doesn't matter, but this time we're clicking My Portfolio. And if you're happy with the pricing, click Sell All. So with that out of the way, there are two other concepts we need to cover before we get started. Firstly, jumping forward. In this case, jumping forward is the practice of advancing game time without actually having to spend hours on the game itself. This is normally done by saving the game. Simply go to bed with any character, either save or back out without saving, and the game advances a few hours. Now, each character's a little different. Michael sleeps for 6 hours when he goes to bed, Franklin sleeps for 8, and Trevor for 12. So if we want to advance, say, one full day in game, that's 24 hours, we'd need to send Trevor to bed twice, Franklin to bed 3 times, and Michael would need to go to bed 4 times. It's a bit of a pain in the backside, but it's a whole lot better than AFKing for the 48 minutes it would take to hit the same timeline. The next trick is called save scumming, and we use it to maximize returns. GTA's story mode has some volatility and a whole lot of timing built into the market, and that sometimes means we can miss our optimal sell price. To avoid this, check the price of stock before you send your character to bed. So in this case, and I'm just using a random stock here for the sake of this example, we can see I'm looking at an all-time high of 13.6% profit. So let's save that, then advance time 1 day by going to save and then backing out 3 times because we're using Franklin. Now we check the stock again. This time it's gone down a little, so we'll keep at it. We'll advance another day, and this time we have a new all-time high, which is a yield around 14.9%. So let's do a proper save. Jumping forward another day, we can see a slight dip here. I think 14.9% was a better return, and it's likely going to be the best we can get. So let's go back to that last save and sell at that 14.9% mark. Open your pause menu, go to game, load game, and select the slot you just used. Once the game loads, you can open the stock market and sell out. Most of the time it will be pretty close to the all-time high that you sold on. It's not quite the way the game is meant to work, but hey, we're actively manipulating the stock market here, and it's all about return on investment. Rightio, one more thing to cover before delving into the seed funding part of this video: maximum cash capacity. Each character can only, and I say only, carry a maximum of 2,147,483,647 in-game dollars. This is likely a system limitation put in place for the Xbox and PS3 versions, as it's the largest 32-bit integer that can exist. If the value of your shares exceeds this when you come to the last mission or two, you will only be able to cash in some of your stock. If this is the case, you can spend up and then withdraw more later. later, so not to worry. To do this, when you go to sell some stock, open the stock exchange on your phone. Go to My Portfolio, click on the stock itself, not the sell all button, but the share. Then crank up the number of shares until you get bored and click the sell button. After that, you can spend up. Buy businesses, properties, vehicles, weapons, whatever you like. Once you're done, you can top up your funds by going back to your stock portfolio and selling some more shares. Okay, the next thing we need to do is build seed capital. After all, it takes money to make money. Most of our early game opportunities for raising capital are available after Hood Safari has been completed. That's the one where Trevor meets Auntie Denise and gives her $7. It's also where we visit CJ's old place for the San Andreas fans out there. You also need to have completed the Merryweather heist, where Trevor accidentally steals an experimental weapon. Now, these missions can be a little bit tedious and time consuming, so do set aside a good day to knock them out. So let's start with Michael. Open your phone and search for Epsilon. Click the Epsilon program website and start the survey. This will start the Epsilon Institute questline, which will lead Michael on quite the journey. Conveniently, we've made a set of guides on how to get through these missions. Links are in the description below. Once you've made your way through the questline to the final mission, Unknowing the Truth, steal the money Fromage gives you, netting us 2.1 million in seed money and properly starting our journey. Moving over to Franklin next. First up, we want to head to this part of the map to trigger the bike theft random event. Now, don't worry too much about the footage, we definitely want to do this with Franklin. After you've returned the bike with Franklin, continue the game as normal. Do a few missions and sleep a bit, whatever. Sometime in the next in-game week or so, Franklin will receive an email from the bike's owner. Have a quick read, then head to the stock market, My Portfolio, and sell the stock. And with any luck, that should net Franklin an additional $100,000 or just shy thereof. Next, head to the Sonar Collection stock on the western side of the map. With the money from the jewelry store job and the shares from the mountain bike, Franklin should have just enough money to purchase the stock. Once that's done, jump in the sub and collect the 30 lots of nuclear waste, put an additional 690 grand plus a refund on the purchase price into Franklin's bank account. If Franklin does not have enough cash for this, check Trevor's account to see if he can afford it, and if not, Michael will do, but if you can do this with Franklin, that's your preferred option. Right, over to Trevor next. Now, Trevor already has some money available, so we're just going to top him up a bit by doing some Freaks and Strangers side quests. Starting with this marker, which triggers the Vinewood Souvenir side quest with Nigel and Mrs. Thornhill. These are a bit of fun too, nowhere near as tedious as the submarine collections. When you get to the last mission of the quest line, the last act, where you go to dispose of Al Dinopoly, on the way to the drop-off, Al will offer you a bribe. Wait until the second offer of $10,000, then drop him off. Sticking with Trevor, you should have received a message from Maud by the time we get to this point. Head to her Freaks and Stranger marker here, and Maud will give you 4 bounties to collect. Bring each of them in alive for an additional $40,000. Heading to the base of the path to the Altruist camp next, we'll find this odd scene, an approximation of a scene from No Country for Old Men, where we'll be able to finish off the remaining participants and collect an easy 25 grand. The final round of Series A funding can be collected by completing the Altruist Challenge. This is where you drop off 4 poor souls to the Altruist camp, where we strongly suspect these cannibals will make soup of them. I typically pick up the most morally dubious characters to drop off. As always, there's a complete guide available in the description below. And that's it for Trevor for now. It's worth noting that you shouldn't worry about any of the other businesses. Most of them lose money, and the Mackenzie airfield hangar will take around 4 hours of grinding to break even, let alone turn a profit. And that's it for early prep. With this done, Michael should be sitting on a little under 3 mil, with Franklin around $1 million, and Trevor hopefully around the 330 grand mark. Okay, time to get down to brass tacks. Investments. Now, the first and one of the most important things, if you are driving around this part of the map and see this guy asking for a ride, do not pick him up. Don't. Instead, head to the other side of the road and deliberately avoid triggering the start of that random encounter. He'll give us a stock tip that yields 25 to 30%, and we want to save that for later in the playthrough. Okay, now it's nearly time for our first investment. Now, the great thing is, this is all percentage percentage based rather than pricing. That means that we can do these in any order and the returns will be more or less the same. Also, prices change from playthrough to playthrough. The percentages remain on par between games though. Start by doing a hard save of your game. That's where you send a character to bed and create a new save file as opposed to a regular auto save or just going to bed and then backing out. Next, we're going to confirm your game isn't bugged, which happens maddeningly often. Head to the stock exchange on your phone and find Auguary Insurance, that's AUG, on the LCN exchange and purchase one share. One share. Exit out, go to bed and immediately back out. Then check your phone again. If the share's there, your game is fine. If not, your game is bugged and you may need to refer to this guide or to check out the video in the description below. Assuming your game stock market is fine, you're good to go. Right, so to recap, we've covered using the in-game stock exchange, fixing the Balsac exchange, time skipping, maximizing returns or save scumming, what to do if you have too much money, raising seed capital, avoiding accidentally triggering the Tinkle investment, and the disappearing stock bug. So Franklin, Michael and Trevor should all have a decent amount of cash in the bank, with Mr. DeSanta really getting a solid head start. So after Franklin and Trevor complete Eye in the Sky, that's the one where we steal the car using the police chopper, take each character to ammunition and load up on ammo. If you're keen, grab some weapons too, now's the time. We won't have money for a bit, so we need to make sure we have everything we need for the next few missions. Once each character has tons of ammunition and explosives on hand, open the stock market on each character's phone and buy Vangelico, that's VAG. Continue playing the main questline until you've completed the Paleto score heist, which is the rural bank robbery. Then sell your stock. Okay, a few missions later, we will have a quick opportunity to give Trevor a bit of a top up too. Once you complete the mission Predator, where you hunt down some of the O'Neill boys using a sniper rifle from a chopper, a new Strangers and Freaks mission will unlock for Franklin, where you can do a triathlon against Mary Ann Quinn. After you've completed the triath, immediately swap from Franklin to Trevor, then head to this location near where the end of the race was. Once you're there, you will see a new random encounter. Rescue the young lady and drop her off. And a little while later, you'll receive a phone call and Trevor will receive a $60,000 reward. Our next investment opportunity isn't quite as lucrative, but it's still worth the effort. Same as Vangelico though, it takes a bit of forward planning. Once you've completed surveying the score, which is where we scope out the Union Depository a bit later in the game, tool up again. Take each character to ammunition and load up on ammo. If you're keen, grab some weapons too, now's the time. We won't have any money for a bit, so we need to make sure we have everything we need for 3 pretty straightforward missions. Now the security company, Group 6, that's GRU, has been a bit depressed since our last heist, and this is due to make a recovery soon. So once each character has tons of ammunition and explosives on hand, jump into the stock market, then purchase Group 6, that's GRU. Continue the storyline until you've completed Fresh Meat, where Franklin rescues Michael from Cheng. Then wait an additional 12 to 36 in-game hours and sell for a modest profit. Sticking with the forward planning theme, immediately after you've completed Legal Trouble, which is where Devin Weston's lawyer Molly puts herself through a jet turbine. Charming stuff. Anyway, immediately after that mission, head to ammunition and load up all 3 characters again. Then, sometime over the next 24 in-game hours, the airline responsible for the plane fly us will tank somewhere in the region of 50%. Now, if you're time skipping here, use Michael because he only jumps 6 hours at a time. Once you spot the dip, go all in on Fly Us, that's FUS, with all 3 characters. Then continue the storyline until the end of Meltdown. That's the movie premiere where Michael has to save his family from Merryweather goons. By the time Michael's rescued his family, the airline stock will have recovered, so you can sell out and get ready for the next one. The next opportunity is a bit more complex as it comes in 2 parts. So once you've completed the big score, that's the Union Depository job, sleep for a few days. Oh, and be sure not to go anywhere near Franklin's front door. Super important. We're doing 2 things here. We want to wait to make sure Auguary Insurance is well and truly depressed. It might not dip, but we want to make sure it's staying put for the moment. At the same time, we're forcing the game not to trigger the finale, where Devin Weston visits Franklin. Right, so after you're confident the price of Auguary is more or less stable, sink everything into it. Then start the Finalé by going to Franklin's front door. Doesn't matter which option you pick either, although option C is the canon ending. Once you've completed one of the endings, Lester will give you a call and deposit the funds from the big score into each character's account. Sink that money into Auguary Insurance 2, which should already be making a modest recovery. Wait 2 to 3 in-game days, then divest for a pretty solid profit. Next up is Tinkle. Remember that fella I said to avoid like the plague at the start of the video? It's time to work his lead. Invest everything you have for all 3 characters into Tinkle, that's TNK, on the Bolsack exchange. Then grab a fast car and head to the pedestrian overpass near the beach to trigger the random encounter. Once you've dropped our new friend back at the airport, head back to your house and advance time by around 24 hours by sleeping a few times. After that, you should be able to sell for a solid 30% gain. Now, if you've done this right, there's a better than average chance you won't actually be able to sell all your stock. If that's the case, open the stock exchange, go to My Portfolio, click on the share itself, not the sell all button, but the share, then crank up the number of shares until you get bored, and click the sell button. After that, you can spend up. Buy businesses, properties, vehicles, weapons, whatever you like. Once you're done, you can top up your funds by going back to your stock portfolio and selling more shares. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Check out the video up the top for a guide on making money, or the one down the bottom for some more old Grumpy Gamer goodness. Stay safe, wash your hands, and we'll see you in the next video.